Hi, friends. I'm Pastor Ben Hayes from First Baptist Church, Dadeville, Alabama, bringing you our thought for the day on this terrific Tuesday. I'm going to tell you, it is a terrific Tuesday. Beautiful day God has given us. As I drove up, I see our food pantry open and folks being ministered to over there. I think about what is in store for me today as I meet with some folks about an exciting opportunity that's coming up for our church. And I look forward to what God is doing. What a blessing. And even as I'm going to a funeral today and just loving the people that are going through this grief, I'm just excited because I know that God is at work, and I hope that you are excited too. Join me this morning, James chapter 4, as we continue. Probably one of the most exciting verses in all of the book of James, but also one that bears a requirement that comes from the Father, and that we so easily misunderstand this passage. Because remember yesterday we talked about uh, fights and wars that are within us. They come from that desire within us to have everything for me. It's all about me. It's for my good, for my family, for my community. When what God has called us to do is to be for others, to give ourselves sacrificially for others. And he says, but you don't have because you don't ask. That's at the end of verse 2. He says, you fight in war, yet you do not have because you do not ask. You want all these things, and you're trying to acquire them for yourselves, for your own pleasure, for your own good, for your fame, for your fortune. And God's just not going to let you get that, because as his child, we have a responsibility to open our hands, not to grasp all that we can, but to willingly give all that we have for the good of others. Now listen to what he says in verse 3. You ask and do not receive because you ask amiss, that you may spend it on your pleasure. Now listen, this is not about a health and prosperity gospel. This is not about, God wants to bless you and give you everything that you want. That's not what I'm telling you here today. God does want to bless you, and he's promised that he will take care of all of our needs according to his riches and glory as his children. The problem is we have misunderstood needs as our wants. We think that everything we want, we have to have. And I see this every day in our lives. And I struggle with it myself. We all do. Because we think we need a new car. We think we need a new boat. We think we need a new gun. All of these things that we think we need, when in reality they're just wants. And we have to learn to understand that, and especially as we approach these days where there's so much uncertainty and inflation is running rampant and people are hurting all around us. We have to come with open hands to the Father and say to him, Lord, everything I have, I entrust to you. Use it for your glory and for the good of others, and just trust him to grant to you exactly what you need to live, what you need to survive, what you need to thrive. And I think that's key in this passage, because he says, you ask and do not receive because you ask amiss. Think about the last thing that you really asked God for. Now, I'm talking about material things. Think about the last thing you asked God for. Or did you even bother to ask? Did you bother to ask, or did you just pull out your credit card? Did you just empty your bank account? How did you do this? Did you ask the Father, okay, God, I really need this car because mine is going bad. I need this, whatever it might be. Or did you just pay for it? Now think about this. God says we ask and we do not receive because we ask amiss. We're asking for our own selfish needs, for our own pleasure. I think that's one of the great things about some of these stories you hear about Truett Cathy and some of these wealthy men that God truly has blessed. And the reason he blessed them is because they recognized that everything that they had belonged to God, and they willingly gave it. And so God just kept pouring more into them. And I think that's one of our issues, is that we don't understand the more that we give, the more God gives back to us. Now, again, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying if you give $100 to the church, God's going to give you $200 back. But I think when we have a lifestyle of ministering to people, he's going to make sure that we have the resources to take care of those people and to take care of ourselves as well. But see, we ask amiss so many times because we want to spend it on our pleasures. We want it for ourselves, to enjoy ourselves. Now, listen to what he says in verse 4, because this is important. Adulterers and adulteresses, do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with God? Wow. Do you see how those verses fit together? He's not talking about sexual immorality here. He's talking about his people prostituting themselves and joining with the world instead of focusing on him. You see, we are his people, and yet we turn to the world so many times that he calls us adulterers and adulteresses. We'll pick up here tomorrow, but think about that. Be blessed. I'll talk to you then.